Uh, yes. Good evening, Rishi. Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone. This side Dr. Abhijit, and today I will be discussing the anatomy of the spleen, which is an important topic from the exam point of view as well. So yes, let others come. So before starting the session, yeah, I want everyone to give a thumbs up in the chat box that all the audio and the visuals are perfectly fine. Rutika Nayak, good evening, beta. Good evening. So just give me a thumbs up in the chat box, guys, so that I'm aware that the audio and visuals are perfectly fine. Hmm. Shall ha. Good evening, Rutika. Good evening. Shall. Now, so yes. Ashish Tatta, yeah, okay. Satyashri, good evening. Good evening. Rutika says, yes, it's already all fine. Sethi Osman, good evening, sir. Okay, good evening. Good evening, beta. Okay, yeah. So let us start the discussion, guys. Let us start the discussion. Good evening, Garima. Good evening, beta. Good evening. So, yes, today I will be discussing Sai Krishna. Good evening. Good evening, beta. The nature, site, and the surface anatomy of the spleen, the size and the weight of the spleen. Okay, that follows the Harry's dictum rule. The functions of the spleen, the shapes and features, along with the relations of the spleen. Ashish Datta, good evening, beta. Rauti, good evening. Good evening, beta. Hilum of the spleen, what are the contents passing through the hilum, right? The peritoneal ligaments of the spleen, the clinical correlations, again an important part. And apart from that, I will be discussing the spleen parenchyma, okay, the red pulp and the white pulp of the spleen. So without wasting much more time, let us now start with the nature. Yeah, good evening, Anuj. Good evening. So let us, yeah, now start with the nature of the spleen. Anuj, good evening. Yeah. So remember, beta, that the spleen, yeah, the spleen is a lymphatic organ. Okay, it is a lymphatic organ which is connected to, yes, Ravinder, Krishma, good evening, beta, which is connected to the vascular system, which is connected to the vascular system. Now, when I say vascular system, means the arteries, yeah, the veins. So remember, it is a lymphatic organ. Okay. Now, when I say lymphatic organ, beta, you should remember in fetal life. Okay. Can anyone tell me in the chat box what is the function of spleen in the fetal life? What does it do in the fetal life, beta? In fetal life, it manufactures erythrocytes. Yes, yes. It manufactures erythrocytes, right? But in after birth, after birth, what does it manufactures, guys? Yes, very good, Satyashri, very good. But what after birth? Yes, Ashish Tatta, very good. But what after birth, beta? After birth, it manufactures, yes, it manufactures lymphocytes. Hmm. Yes, it manufactures lymphocytes. Now, yes, Sethi Usman, very good, beta. So it is a lymphatic organ. Why? Because it is manufacturing the lymphocytes, okay, after the birth. Yes, fun mode, very good. Fun mode, very good. Now, site beta, remember, it is, yeah, it is obliquely placed, okay, in the posterior part. Okay, you can see over here, beta, I have tried to show you the spleen where it is, okay, placed. So you should remember it is obliquely placed. Now, can anyone tell me in the chat box? Yes, Ravinder, you're right. Anyone tell me in the chat box that from which rib to which rib it is like present? Yes, so before that, I'm just completing the statement. It is obliquely present in. the posterior part of, हाँ, erythrocyte वाला point ठीक है? Yes, it is obliquely present in the posterior part of left hypochondrium बेटा. अब ये मुझे बताने की जरूरत नहीं है हाइपोकॉन्ड्रियम कौन सा रीजन है. यू आर वेरी वेल अवेयर कि जब हमने 9 रीजन्स डिस्कस किए थे एब्डोमेन के, सो यू वर वेरी वेल अवेयर कि दिस इज द राइट साइड एंड दिस इज द लेफ्ट साइड. सो यस, it is present in the left hypochondrium. Hypo means below the coastal. Chondrium coastal line हो गई ना, subcoastal plane हो गया. Yes, fun mode you are. No beta, it's not right. It is 9, 10 and 11. Shah SRK, good evening. Good evening beta. So obviously it is present in the left hypochondrium, and I would say the lateral two-third part. The lateral two-third part, it is present in the left hypochondrium. Plus, it is present partially in the, देखो हाइपोकॉन्ड्रियम, कॉन्ड्रियम बॉडी किसके लिए होता है? कार्टिलेज के लिए, राइट? तो मैंने आपको बताया था ना कि ये वाला लेफ्ट हाइपोकॉन्ड्रियम होगा, राइट हाइपोकॉन्ड्रियम होगा, राइट? और ये अम्बिलिकस के ऊपर वाला रीजन क्या होगा? एपिगैस्ट्रिक. सो देयर इज सम पोर्शन इन द एपिगैस्ट्रिक रीजन आल्सो, और आई कैन सिंपली से इट इज पार्टली इन द एपिगैस्ट्रियम. So yes, it is present in the epigastrium as well. And remember beta, in the epigastrium it is medial 1/3. Okay, in the epigastrium it is medial 1/3. In the epigastrium it is medial 1/3. So yes, the site beta, left hypochondrium, majority of the part. Okay, and a little bit of in the epigastrium. Okay, so now you already know when we talk about the surface anatomy beta. Okay, now you already know कि लास्ट से अगर शुरू करो, सो यू कैन वेरी वेल सी कि एक okay, which rib is this beta? Anyone in the chat box, the one which I have marked with the arrow? Okay, can anyone tell me? Good evening Surveen beta, good evening. So can anyone tell me which rib is this? Yes, can anyone tell me which rib is this in the chat box? Yes, pretty very good beta. It is the 12th rib beta. You can see it is the floating rib. So yes, I will write it over here. Very good. Very good. Dimple, Sharjeel, Usman, Garima, Surveen, Ravinder, Rauti, Satyashri, Fun Mode. Very good. Floating rib. Very good. So let us just number the ribs over here so that the picture is clear to everyone. So this is the 12th rib. The above one, it is 11th. Okay. Then we yes. Then we have the 10th rib and the 9th rib. So you can see that you can very well see that everyone is right. So you are very well aware that it is lying opposite which three ribs beta? 9, 10 and 11. So you can see it is lying opposite which three ribs? That is 9, 10 and 11. So remember, it lies opposite 9, 10, 11. Okay, 9, 10, 11 ribs. Now with its long axis parallel to 10th rib, long axis parallel to 10th rib, making an angle of 45° with horizontal. 45° with horizontal. Now beta, just see over here. Now suppose these are the vertebrae. Okay, now suppose these are the vertebrae. They are situated in the midline. Let us understand the meaning of this particular statement. Now now suppose beta, this is the 10th rib. Okay, now suppose this is the 10th rib. Okay, now suppose this is the 10th rib. Now I'm specifically talking about this 10th rib. And now on the long axis, okay, which is like, if we talk about the spleen is like present on this 10th rib like this. Okay, the spleen is present like this. The long axis of the spleen, okay, is parallel to the long axis of the 10th rib. Okay, it is just overlying that. And remember, beta, it is making an angle. Okay, it is making an angle of 45 degree with the horizontal plane. It is making an angle of 45 degree with the horizontal plane. So this is the spleen, and remember the long axis, okay, yeah, of the spleen, it is lying parallel to the 10th rib, which is making an angle of 45 degree with the horizontal. I hope this particular point is clear to everyone. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box if this is um, clear to everyone. Yes. Before writing the next point, I want everyone to give me a thumbs up in the chat box. Yes, perfect. Kriti, Dimple, very good, beta. Very good. Surveen, Satyashri, very good. Garima, very good, beta. Very good. Ravinder, very good. Sai Krishna, very good. Sanjana, Angel, perfect. Perfect, beta. Now, beta, remember a clinical correlation that we have to remember over here. SRI, Vardhan, Rutika, very good. एक पॉइंट यहाँ पे क्लिनिकली आप लोग को याद रखना है, दैट स्प्लीन इज नॉट पैल्पेबल. हम सारे ऑर्गन्स को ना वी कैन नो टच एंड पैल्पेट, बट spleen is not palpable. Can anyone tell me the reason why? Can anyone tell me the reason why the spleen is not palpable? Yeah. The spleen is not palpable as it does not extend below, as it does not extend below the coastal margin, beta, as it does not extend below the coastal margin. Okay, so yeah, it is lying just opposite to the ribs, so that's why we cannot palpate it. Yes, it's located in the ठीक है, because of ribs. Very good. So yes, it is not palpable as it does not extend below the coastal margin. So I hope this is clear. This particular slide is clear to everyone. Now moving on to the next part, beta, what is the size and the weight of the spleen? And yes, guys, it follows a certain dictum, and that is called as the Harry's dictum, beta. And what does it says? And what does it says? It says that, yeah, you already know the odd numbers. You know 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and 11. Try to write like this, the way I am writing, beta. Yes, the way I am writing, the rule of the odd numbers. So yeah, it is 1 inch. 1 inch, it is the thickness of the spleen. It is the thickness of the spleen. Remember, 3 inches. 3 inches, it is the width. It is the width or breadth, we can say, of spleen. 5 inches. 5 inches. Yes. Yes, 5 inches. It is the length of the spleen. Length of the spleen. 7 ounces. Now, when I say 7 ounces, it is referring to the weight of the spleen, guys. Weight of spleen, and 7 ounces is approximately equal to 200 grams. It is approximately equal to 200 grams, right? Yes. 9 to 11. 9 to 11. Beta, you already know it lies deep. It lies deep to 9th to 11th rib. It lies deep to 9th to 11th rib. I hope the size and the weight, that is the hairy dictum, it is clear to everyone, and it is obviously shown in the picture as well. So yes, it is ninth, 10th and 11th. So it is lying deep to 9th, 10th and 11th rib. Okay, and the long axis of the 10th rib, it is parallel to the long axis of the spleen, making an angle of 45 degree. Yes, Shri Pardhan, very good beta. Okay, I hope everyone understood the size, okay, and the weight and the other parameters that are related to the spleen. So yes, now coming on to the functions of the spleen. So coming on to the functions of the spleen, yes, Shah SRK, very good. That was like, yeah. So one function I have already discussed, that in fetal life, just I want to make it complete. That's why I'm writing it. It is manufacture of erythrocytes, manufacture of erythrocytes, and yeah, in okay, or after birth, it is manufacture of, yeah, lymphocytes, right? It is manufacture of lymphocytes. Yes. Yes, beta Usman. Graveyard of RBC. Okay. So I will write everything, no need to worry. After birth, yes, it helps in the manufacture of, yeah, manufacture of lymphocytes. बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो रविंदर, उसको कब्रिस्तान भी बोला जाता है. I'm just reading your comments. I'm just reading your comments, like ये तो कब्रिस्तान मत लिखाना पेपर में. टेक्निकल वर्ड्स पे फोकस करता है. हाँ, yes, it also helps in the removing of worn out RBCs. Removing of the worn out RBCs. Even तुम्हारी लैंग्वेज अभी कल बिग बॉस का ना ग्रैंड फिनाले था, तो माय होल फैमिली वाज नो इनटू इट. तुम लोगों ने मुझे फटाफट से कमेंट करके बताओ कि बिग बॉस का ग्रैंड फिनाले देखा है कल. पूरा सिस्टम सिस्टम हिला दिया बिल्कुल नहीं. चलिए, is the removing of the worn out RBCs. Yes. And remember, it is storage house of RBCs as well. Yes. It is storage house of, Garima says yes. देखा है. RBCs. हाँ. कल वाला एपिसोड तो बहुत बड़ा था. And yes, it releases them in circulation whenever needed. It releases them in circulation whenever needed. Okay. Chaliye, Ravinder, yes. Sharjeel, yes. Okay, perfect. I hope the functions are clear, beta. I hope the functions are clear. The Harry's dictum is clear. The nature, site, and surface anatomy is clear. So we have discussed these topics. Now coming on to the shapes and features. Now coming on to the shapes and features. Now, beta, remember that whenever we talk about the shapes and features, the external features, basically remember, we have two ends. Okay, we have two ends of the spleen. I will draw a diagram also, no need to worry. I will draw a diagram also for you people. So absolutely no need to worry. So remember, we have two ends. Okay, we have two surfaces. We have two surfaces of spleen. We have two borders of spleen. And yeah, we have two angles of spleen, yet not important that much, but yes, just to complete it, I will write it. We have two angles of the spleen, right? Now, two ends, beta. Remember, we have the medial end of the spleen, okay, and we have the lateral end. The lateral end, the medial end, beta, it is towards the posterior part, okay. So it is at the posterior extremity. The lateral end, it is towards the anterior part. So we have the anterior extremity. Now two surface beta. One surface is called as the diaphragmatic surface. One surface, it is called as the diaphragmatic surface. Yeah. So diaphragmatic surface, the surface of the spleen which is attached to the diaphragm, it is smooth beta. It is smooth. Okay. And one surface, it is the visceral surface. It is the visceral surface. And remember, in the visceral surface, visceral means organs. It is attached to different organs. It is attached to the part of the stomach. So it is the gastric impressions which you will see on the spleen, the yeah, impressions. Yes, Shivardhan, I will take it as soon as I complete the abdomen part. Yeah, we have the colic impressions, okay, and pancreatic impressions, colic impressions and pancreatic impressions, and we also have renal impressions. Now, renal impressions. So visceral surface is basically the surface which is attached to these organs, okay? The stomach, the kidney, the splenic flexure of colon, right? The pancreas. So yeah, I will draw this diagram, so no need to worry at all. We have two borders, beta. We have superior border and we have the inferior border of the spleen. And two angles, that is anterior or anterobasal angle, and we have the posterior angle, or it is also called as the posterobasal angle. No need to remember the angles, not that important. So yeah, keeping this particular picture in mind, let us just try to draw our own diagram beta. Let us just try to draw our own diagram. Yeah. So now suppose this is the spleen. Okay. Now suppose this is the spleen and there are certain notches which are present on the upper border. Upper means the superior border, right? So yes, this is how a spleen will look like. Okay, this is how a spleen will look like, right? So yeah, let us just try to mark what all we have written. So beta, this border beta, this whole line, okay, that is extending from top to below, it is called as the superior border. Okay, it is called as the superior or the upper border of the spleen, or the upper border of the spleen, right? Now remember that we have an intermediate border. Okay, we have an intermediate border, or also called as the medial border of the spleen. Okay, did I have not mentioned it? Yes. So this is, yeah. Hmm. This is the medial border. Okay, this is the medial border, or I can also say the intermediate border. एक बॉर्डर ऊपर हो गया, दैट इज द सुपीरियर बॉर्डर. एक बॉर्डर बीच में मीडियल बॉर्डर, और एक बॉर्डर बिल्कुल नीचे, दैट यू विल इनकाउंटर बेटा, इट इज कॉल्ड एज द इंफीरियर बॉर्डर, और आई कैन आल्सो से द लोअर बॉर्डर, inferior border, or it is also called as the lower border of the spleen. Lower border of the spleen. Now, after marking all the three borders, beta, remember we have two ends of the spleen. Okay, this is called as the posterior end of the spleen. Okay, this is the posterior end. Okay, posterior end. I have also mentioned it as the medial end of the spleen, right? Medial end of the spleen, okay, because it is towards the medial side. And yes, when we come on to the anterior end, now this whole beta, this whole end, it is called as the anterior end. Now this anterior end, yeah, this anterior end, it is also called as the lateral end of the spleen, right? It is the lateral end of the spleen. So we have the posterior end and the anterior end. Okay. Now, now let us now study regarding these in short details. Okay. So beta, superior border. Okay, superior border. It is now. It is my marker. It is thin. Okay, the superior border is thin. It is convex. Okay, it is convex. Okay, and we can see these notches. Okay, these notches are present, and these notches which are present in the superior upper border, these are called as the splenic notches. These are called as the splenic notches, and these splenic notches, beta, these are actually, it can vary. It can be one, it can be two, it can be three, or it can be more than three. And remember, beta, these splenic notches are developmental notches. These are developmental notches. Okay, developmental notches. Actually, when spleen develops, it develops from the different pieces of the mesenchyme. Okay, different pieces of the mesenchyme. That's why these notches are there over here, right? So yes, that is about the superior border that you have to remember. If we talk about the inferior border, beta, the inferior border, beta, comparatively as compared to the superior border, it is thick. Okay, it is thick. It is rounded. It is rounded, and moreover it is smooth. Okay, moreover it is smooth. Why it is smooth? Because there are no notches which are present over here. There are no notches which are present over here. Now coming on to the anterior, yeah, okay, before coming, okay, the anterior end or the lateral end, beta, it is like broad. Okay, it is broad. And when I say broad, beta, you should understand that it is more like a border. Okay, it is more like a border. Okay, because it is broad. Okay, now this anterior end, it is facing downwards. Okay, it is facing downwards. नीचे की तरफ है ये. Okay, it is facing downwards, forwards है तभी तो anterior बोल रहे हैं. And to the left, and to the left. अब ऑब्वियस सी बात है, अगर ये राइट साइड है बेटा और ये लेफ्ट साइड है, तो ये लेफ्ट की तरफ जा रहा है, मिड लाइन से दूर जा रहा है, तो ये लेटरल है. ठीक है. If it is going away from the midline, it is the lateral part. To the left, basically towards the left mid axillary line. Okay. Yeah. Left mid axillary line. Axilla, ये एक्सिला पार्ट होता है बेटा. इसकी जो बीच वाली लाइन होती है, that is called as the mid axillary line. हाँ बेटा, 3D में भी दिखाऊंगा श्रीवर्धन. I have the picture over here. I will show it to you guys. No need to worry. I have all the pictures with me. Yeah, I will show you. Yes, I will show you. No need to worry. Left mid axillary, yeah, line. Okay. No need to worry. Let us first draw it, beta, Srivardhan, and then I will show you. Okay. Let us first draw our own picture so that we can relate to it. Right. Remember the anterior end, it is related to Phrenicocolic ligament. Phrenicocolic ligament. Okay, I'll just correct the spellings over here. Yes. Yes. Okay. I will show you better. No need to worry. Absolutely no need to worry. We have the Phrenicocolic ligament. Now, this anterior end or the lateral end, it is related to this particular ligament. Phrenic का मतलब क्या होता है बेटा? Diaphragm. Colic means the colic over here, it is the splenic flexure of colon. Colic over here, it is the splenic flexure of colon. So yeah, this end, it is related to that also. So I will just show you. If you know, we have the diaphragm बेटा. Diaphragm होता है, ठीक है? डायफ्राम को हम फ्रेनिक बोलते हैं, और ये हो गया हमारा इंटेस्टाइन, और ये हो गया स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन. Splenic flexure of colon. So yes, the surface of the spleen, it is the anterior surface. It is connected. It is connected to this particular ligament. Okay, and this ligament, it is connecting the diaphragm to the splenic flexure of colon. Okay, it is connected to from the diaphragm to the splenic flexure, and obviously it is passing through the spleen. And which part? It is the anterior end. It is touching the anterior end and it is passing, so that the spleen remains in its own position. Okay, it does not allow the spleen to come down, so it is acting like a barrier. It is acting like a barrier beta. Okay, so yes, it is acting like a barrier, not allowing spleen to come downwards, not allowing spleen to come downwards. बेटा उसमें मैंने ज्यादा कुछ लिखा नहीं है उस पोर्शन में ना. इट इज लाइक दिस बेटा. दिस इज द डायफ्राम. ओके, और ये स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन ले लो. दिस इज स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन, और ये स्प्लीन है. तो डायफ्राम से स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन तक एक लिगामेंट है, एंड दैट लिगामेंट इट इज कॉल्ड फ्रेनिकोकोलिक लिगामेंट. ऑब्वियसली बात है, डायफ्राम फ्रेनिक और कोलॉन का पार्ट है. स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन, okay, the left flexure, right? So phrenicocholic ligament हो गया, and it is passing through this anterior end of the spleen. Okay, तो anterior end पर ये ligament touch करता हुआ, it is just touching this particular point and it is passing down to the splenic flexure of colon. So yes, it does not allow the spleen to come downwards, right? I hope this is clear. I hope this is clear to everyone. चल, yes, अब तो मैंने ऊपर बना दिया बेटा, ठीक है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट बेटा, यू हैव टू रिमेंबर द पोस्टीरियर एंड और द मीडियल एंड. ओके, इट इज ब्लंट और राउंडेड. ओके, इट इज ब्लंट और राउंडेड. ओके, इट इज ब्लंट और राउंडेड. ओके, इट इज directed upwards, backwards, and medial. Okay, it is directed upwards, backwards, and it is directed medially. It is like 1.5 inches from the median plane of the body, right? So yes, I hope these all parts are clear to everyone. And these surface beta, जो अंदर वाला surface है, this is called as the visceral surface. फटाफट से एक thumbs up दे दो chat box में. This is called as the visceral surface. Okay. Okay, it presents with hilum. It presents with hilum. Vicky Chaudhary Dimple, very good beta. It presents with hilum. Okay, now this visceral surface, it is actually a rough impression. Okay, it is actually a rough impression. Okay, I will just show you this. Okay, the visceral surface, it is concave also beta. It is concave, irregular. ओके, देखो एक सरफेस जो है वो ऑर्गन्स की तरफ होगा, तो ऑर्गन्स की तरफ, एब्डोमिनल ऑर्गन्स की तरफ है, सो दैट इज द विसरल इंटरनल जो पार्ट है. और एक सरफेस स्प्लीन का कहाँ होता है? ऊपर की तरफ, डायफ्राम की तरफ, तो वो डायफ्रामेटिक सरफेस हो गया. और एक सरफेस क्या हो गया? दिस इज द विसरल सरफेस. यस, एवरीवन इज राइट. उस्मान, एंजल, संजना, साई कृष्णा, वेरी गुड बेटा. So I hope these parts are clear. I hope these parts are clear. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box if it is clear to everyone, so that I can move on to the next. Okay, before coming on to the next, just let us see in the atlas diagram also. Just let us see in the atlas diagram also. So you can very well see beta over here. You can see the developmental notches. Can you see these developmental notches beta? So obviously this is the superior border. This is the superior border. Now we have the posterior end, beta मैंने बताया था. We have the anterior extremity, okay, which is just like a border. ठीक है. Now you already know बीच में क्या present होता है. We have the hilum, okay, visceral surface की बात कर रहे बेटा. ये नीचे की तरफ देखोगे तो we have the inferior border or the lower border of the spleen. Okay, you can see the inferior border and the lower border of the spleen. Hilum I will talk in detail, okay, just in another couple of minutes. Okay, so you can see all the surfaces. This one will be attached to the stomach part. We have the pancreas wala part, then colic part. So I will draw this particular diagram again to show the visceral relations of the, yeah, spleen. Okay, so absolutely no need to worry about it. Okay, chaliye. So yes, yes. Can anyone tell me now? Now it's your chance to. Okay, now it's your turn to tell me which part of the spleen is this. Which part of the spleen is this? चलिए जल्दी से बताइए. I'm just trying to show the visceral view. Yeah. Which part of the spleen is this? Okay, which I have marked with A. Now you guys are going to tell me which is the B part. हाँ, सुपीरियर. सुपीरियर क्या है? पूरा लिखना है बेटा. सुपीरियर क्या है? पूरा लिखना है. हाँ, ठीक है. फन मोड वेरी गुड. सेफ्यूस्पान वेरी गुड. बी क्या है? व्हाट इज दिस सी जिसमें आपको सारा का सारा या कंटेंट्स मिल रहा है? व्हाट इज दिस डी बेटा? ऑलरेडी आई हैव डिस्कस दीस पार्ट्स, राइट? या हाँ, चल ठीक है. सुपीरियर बॉर्डर वाला पार्ट ठीक है. ठीक है. पोस्टीरियर एंड बी वेरी गुड बेटा. इट इज द पोस्टीरियर एंड. या वेरी गुड. पोस्टीरियर एंड भी बोल सकते हैं या मीडियल एंड भी बोल सकते हैं. वेरी गुड करिमा. Very good guys. What about C? Yeah, fun mode. It is right. It is the posterior end. Yes, very good बेटा. हाँ, ये आपको दिख रहा है ना? These are the developmental notches बेटा. अगर आपको दिख रहा होगा तो these are the developmental notches on the superior border. Okay, because it is developing from the different parts of the mesenchyme. Yes, medial border हो गया C. हाँ, C medial border और more precisely जो highlighted structure है बेटा, that is the hilum of the spleen. Okay, that is the hilum of the spleen. बेटा सी को ना मीडियल एक्चुअल में नहीं बोलोगे, इसको ना इंटरमीडिएट ही बोलेंगे क्योंकि बिकॉज इट इज एग्जैक्टली इन द मिडल. तो या तो यस, इसको ना इंटरमीडिएट बॉर्डर ही रहने दो बिकॉज इट विल बी नॉट अ करेक्ट टर्म बिकॉज यहाँ पे कुछ लेटरल प्रेजेंट नहीं है. तो यस, इट इज द इंटरमीडिएट बॉर्डर. हाँ ठीक है. डी है इंफीरियर बॉर्डर. यस ओके, डी इज द इंफीरियर बॉर्डर. ठीक है. ठीक है बेटा. Okay, I will come to this diagram again after a couple of minutes. Okay, I will come to this diagram again after a couple of minutes because I have to discuss the visceral relations. चलिए, इतना क्लियर हो गया सब लोग को. Now coming on to the relations of the spleen. Now coming on to the relations of the spleen. हाँ. Now, beta, can anyone tell me how many relations of the spleen are there? Can anyone tell me how many relations of the spleen are there? Now, one, it is the diaphragmatic relation of the spleen, the diaphragmatic surface. Yes, and one, it is the visceral surface, which is related to all the organs. So visceral surface, I will again draw a diagram for you people. No need to worry about that. Yes, बेटा एक्चुअली में दो ही हैं मेजरली. हाँ, मैं उसके impressions की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ जो visceral surface पे मिलती हैं. I'm just talking about the relation. Now first, if we talk about the diaphragmatic relations, beta, diaphragmatic relations. So remember the spleen is related to the diaphragm which separates spleen from, which separates the spleen from. Now you can see the Yeah, you can obviously see the diaphragmatic part bit over here in this particular picture. And yes, it is separating the spleen from, remember, yeah, the lower part of the left lung, the lower part of the left lung, right? The lower part of the left lung. Yes, Srivardhan, very good. It is the diaphragmatic and the visceral part. Yes, you're right. Okay, we have the lower part of the left pleura. Now, when I say left pleura, you already know we have, yeah, the recess part, okay, and that is called as the costo diaphragmatic recess. It is called as the costo diaphragmatic recess. Okay, it is called as the costo diaphragmatic recess, right? The lower part of the left pleura, costo diaphragmatic recess. Okay, then we have posterior parts of ninth, 10th, 11th ribs and their intercostal muscles So the spleen is related to the diaphragm in such a way that the diaphragmatic surface of the spleen, it separates the spleen from the lower part of the left lung, lower part of the left pleura, and it is called as the costodiaphragmatic recess. And the third one, it is the posterior parts of the ninth, 10th, and the 11th ribs. Okay, so I hope the diaphragmatic surface is clear. Now coming on to the visceral surface beta. Coming on to, yeah, the visceral surface. Okay, let us just try to draw this diagram, and then we will again go back to the picture and understand. Okay, so visceral means I'm showing you the spleen, okay, the interior surface of the spleen like this, how it is. Chalo. Now suppose beta this is the spleen. In between the spleen we have this intermediate border which contains a structure that is called as the hilum, where there is entry of like splenic artery and the splenic vessels, right? And yes, this is the hilum. So yes, I will draw it a little nicer so that, yeah. Mhm. So yes, like this, the picture is there. So you already know that this structure, it is the hilum of the spleen. Hilum I will be discussing. Hilum I will be discussing. Okay. Now beta, the area, okay, the large concave area between the hilum, okay, the large concave area between the hilum and the upper border. Upper means the superior border. Basically, you can see, okay, you can see the fundus of the stomach attaching over this particular area. The fundus of the stomach attaching over this particular area. So that you have to mention in your notes. Yes, it is this area which is for gastric impression. Gastric impression. That is the first visceral relation. Okay. So I'm just talking about the visceral relations of the spleen. So now when I say visceral means it will be related to the organs. So this part of the spleen, it is the largest part, okay? The largest impression because it is a large concave area. It is a large concave area between hilum and upper border. Okay, specifically it is the hilum and the superior border. And remember the gastric impression, why I'm saying it as the gastric impression, because the posterior wall of the fundus of the stomach is attached here. Fundus of stomach is attached over here. I hope this is clear, beta. I hope this particular part is clear. पहला impression clear हो गया है? Yes, पहला impression clear हो गया है. चल, ठीक है. Thumbs up देते रहो chat box में that you guys are here along with me alive attending the session, so that it gives me, yeah. Dimple Sai Krishna, very good, beta. Very good. Now, guys, you are very well aware that this part, okay, between the hilum and the lower border, okay, between the hilum and the lower border, this part, it is of the spleen. Between, yes, every angel, Sethi Usman, Garima, very good. Between the hilum and the lower border, beta. This is connected to the kidneys. Yes, this is connected to the kidneys. That's why it is the renal impression. Renal impression. Okay, it is a small shallow impression. It is a small shallow impression between hilum and lower border, or I can say the inferior border. And remember, it is related to front of left kidney. That's why it is like a renal impression. The second impression, it is the renal impression. It is related to the front of the left kidney, just below the hilum, beta. If we talk just below the hilum, you should be, yeah, just below the hilum. Yeah, we have pancreatic impression, beta. We have pancreatic impression. And can anyone tell me in the chat box which part of the pancreas will be like present over here towards the left side? जल्दी से बताओ chat box के अंदर. So we have the pancreatic impression. Yes. Now pancreatic impression, basically it is related to anyone? Yes, it is related to the tail of the pancreas. It is related to the tail of the pancreas. Fun mode, Sethi Usman, very good. Very good, beta. It is related to the tail of the pancreas. Yes, it is related to the tail of the pancreas. It is a small impression. Okay, pancreatic impression. It is a small impression. Yeah, below the lateral end. Lateral end of the hilum. Right. Yes, everyone is right. Yes, very good, beta. Now, the remaining area, beta, the remaining area, okay, it is this remaining area, beta. It is connected to the splenic flexure of colon. Splenic flexure of colon. Splenic flexure of colon. And this is something which is called as the colic impression. Colic impression. Okay. Now remember, it is a flat area close to lateral end of spleen. It is a flat area close to the lateral end of the spleen. Okay. So this is related to the left colic flexure, okay, and lower part, lower part, it is related to Phrenicocolic ligament. Phrenicocolic ligament. Okay. Phrenicocolic ligament. So yes, I hope this is clear to each and everyone. All the impressions are clear. So in totality, beta, you have to remember the four impressions. I hope this is clear to everyone. You have to remember the four impressions, beta. The renal impression, the left kidney anterior part, the gastric impression, basically the posterior wall of the fundus of the stomach, pancreas, and especially the tail of the pancreas. And then we have the splenic flexure of colon. Okay, the splenic flexure of colon. Basically, it is attached to the left colic flexure, that is the splenic flexure only. And the lower part, beta, it is related to a ligament that I have already told you, which is extending from the diaphragm to the colon. It is the Phrenicocolic ligament, which prevents the downward displacement of the spleen. So, yes, just give me a thumbs up in the chat box, guys, that you have understood this. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box that you have understood this so that I can start on with the next part. Yeah, Vicky, very good, beta. Dimple, very good. Perfectly fine. Yes, जल्दी से बता दो, फटाफट से बता दो. संजना, गरिमा, एंजल, वेरी गुड. संजना, गरिमा, एंजल, वेरी गुड. परफेक्ट. बाकी सब भी बता दिया करो. अब तुम लोग बताओ, ये ए, दिस ए पार्ट बेटा, ये कौन सा इंप्रेशन है? Which impression is this? Tell me. Tell me in the chat box. Which impression is this? This A part. Sethi Usman, very good. Which impression is A? Which impression is B? Which impression is C? And which impression is D? सत्यश्री, गैस्ट्रिक इंप्रेशन, वेरी गुड बेटा. गरिमा, वेरी गुड. गैस्ट्रिक इंप्रेशन है. चलो जल्दी से फटाफट से लेबलिंग के आंसर दे दो. चलो फटाफट से लेबलिंग के आंसर दे दो. साई कृष्णा, गैस्ट्रिक. डिम्पल, डी, गैस्ट्रिक, वेरी गुड बेटा. विकी, गैस्ट्रिक. Satyashri says B is the splenic flexure of colon. Very good, Satyashri. Very good. गरिमा ने सारे आंसर दे दिए. बी स्प्लेनिक, सी पेनक्रियाटिक, पेनक्रियास का टेल वाला पार्ट, और डी रेनल. वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड. डिम्पल डी सेज बी स्प्लेनिक. यस, वेरी गुड बेटा. इट इज द स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन. स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन. और ये नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा? लेफ्ट कोलिक फ्लेक्शन. वन ऑफ द सेम थिंग्स, लेफ्ट कोलिक फ्लेक्शन. ठीक है. विकी चौधरी ने स्प्लेनिक फ्लेक्चर ऑफ कोलॉन. उस्मान, सी पेनक्रियास वाला पार्ट. हाँ, सी में बेटा तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए. इट इज the lateral end of the hilum, which will present as the tail of the pancreas. Yeah, the tail of the pancreas. Sai Krishna, D is the renal part. D is the renal part. Very good beta. Perfectly fine, fine. Chal. Next. I hope you all understood. Till now, we have already discussed the nature, site, surface anatomy, size and the weight, that is the Harry's dictum, functions of the spleen, the shapes and the features. Already I have explained this with the help of a beautiful diagram. Apart from that, I have explained the relations of the spleen, the diaphragmatic relations and the visceral relations, which I have discussed with the picture of the Gray's Anatomy Atlas, right? So yes, now starting with the next topic, that is the hilum of the spleen. Now beta, you can very well see that this part, it is the hilum of the spleen. Okay, the opening in the spleen part, you can see over here, that is the hilum. So this is the hilum, right? This is the hilum. So remember beta, it is a longitudinal slit. It is a longitudinal slit on visceral surface. Slit का मतलब opening हो गया बेटा. Visceral surface. Okay. Now between which two impressions? Okay. It is between the gastric, yeah, and the colic impressions. No need to write that much. Now beta, tell me what you can see in this particular hilum. Which vessels are present in this particular hilum? I want you to answer this. So it transmits. Now you guys are going to tell me it transmits what? It transmits, yes, it is the terminal branches. It is the terminal branches of splenic artery. It transmits the terminal branches of the splenic artery. We have tributaries of splenic vein. We have tributaries of splenic vein. And the third one, we have the autonomic nerves and lymphatics. Autonomic nerves and lymphatics. Okay, so you already know beta ki when we talk about the splenic artery, it is tortuous in nature and it is passing behind the stomach. So you already know this is the celiac trunk, and from the celiac trunk, the largest branch of the celiac trunk, it is the splenic artery. The splenic artery, it is tortuous in nature, and when it reaches the greater curvature of the stomach, it will divide into multiple branches. Okay, and this is something which are called as the terminal branches of the splenic artery, और इसी को हम लोग क्या बोलते हैं? Hilar branches, or hilar branches of the splenic artery. We have the splenic veins, okay, and then we have the autonomic nerves and this. I hope this is clear. I hope the hilum of the spleen is clear to everyone. So just give me a thumbs up in the chat box, guys, that it is clear. Yes. Are you all attending the class live, writing the notes along with me? Beta. Perfectly. Dimple, Vicky, Garima, Angel, Sai Krishna. Now, अच्छा एक चीज और याद रखिएगा कि हाइलम ऑफ द स्प्लीन, सत्यश्री, अभी, रुतिका, संजना, वेरी गुड. Hilum of the spleen will give rise to two ligaments also. It will give rise to two ligaments also, or I can say attachment to two ligaments. Attachment to two ligaments. Can anyone tell me the name of the two ligaments, guys? Can anyone tell me the name of the two ligaments? Lino-renal ligament between the spleen and the kidney, and the gastrosplenic ligament, and the gastrosplenic ligament. Yes, lino-renal ligament. Yeah, between the kidney and the spleen, or splenorenal ligament भी बोल सकते हैं, right? So one of the same things. Now coming on to this peritoneal relations only, guys. Peritoneal relations only. Now beta, you already know कि we have the anterior abdominal wall, right? And we have the posterior abdominal wall. You already know the stomach is developing. The stomach is developing, and stomach is basically endodermal because all the foregut part, okay, midgut and hindgut, it is all endodermal, derived from the yolk sac. Apart from that, you know, the stomach is attached to, yeah, the stomach is attached to the anterior abdominal wall, okay. There is a mesentery over here, and that is called as the which mesentery, and the stomach is also suspended to the posterior abdominal wall, क्योंकि पता है कि पूरा का पूरा एंडोडर्म से बना हुआ है, तो बाहर क्या प्रेजेंट होगा? मीसोडर्म. और मीसोडर्म की ही जो मॉडिफिकेशंस आपको देखने को मिल रही हैं, that is called as the ventral mesentery. Ventral mesentery, और ये क्या हो जाएगा, dorsal mesentery, right? Dorsal mesogastrium, okay? Dorsal mesogastrium या dorsal mesentery, ventral mesentery या फिर ventral mesogastrium, mesogastrium, right? Now you already know beta कि the liver is developing in the front, no need to like learn about this, and we have this spleen which is developing in the dorsal mesogastrium, okay? So yeah, above we have like before we have the kidney, right? So the ligament which is attached to the greater curvature of the stomach and the spleen, it is the gastrosplenic ligament. Gastrosplenic ligament, and the ligament which is attached from the spleen to the kidney, it is linorenal ligament. Okay, linorenal ligament. Okay, so if I just want to see a cross section beta, if I'm just taking a cross section, this already I have explained to you in detail. So I'm just trying to see a cross section over here. This is the anterior side. Okay, this is the stomach in between. This is the stomach. Okay, and the stomach is suspended by mesentery. Now you already know the liver is developing over here. The liver is developing, and on the left part over here, the spleen is developing. Okay, the spleen is developing. So this is the posterior side which I'm showing you right now. So the spleen is connected to the stomach. Okay, the spleen is connected to the stomach through a ligament, and that ligament, okay, in the dorsal mesogastrium, it is the linorenal ligament. Okay, so this is, yeah, okay, sorry, it is the gastrosplenic, between the stomach and the spleen, gastrosplenic ligament. Yes, yes, very good, fun mode, very good. And from the spleen, you already know on the posterior wall we have something which is called as the kidney. Okay, this is the kidney. So from the kidney on the posterior abdominal wall, yeah, to the spleen, we have another ligament that is connecting the spleen to the kidney. And that is something which you already know. It is the linorenal ligament or splenorenal ligament also. Splenorenal ligament also. So yeah, what is asked in the exam are the contents. Key, what will you find in the gastrosplenic ligament beta? Gastrosplenic ligament के अंदर आपको देखने को मिलेगी splenic artery. Okay, splenic artery along with the splenic vein. So yes, splenic artery is one of the contents. Contents आप लोगों को याद रखने हैं. Splenic artery, yeah, you will have the tail of the pancreas. Tail of pancreas. In linorenal ligament, you will have. Sorry. I've just mentioned it. मैंने उल्टा mention कर दिया. So yes. See, in the gastrosplenic ligament, okay, tell me beta which artery you will see. Now tell me which arteries you will see in the gastro, opposite लिख दिया. So yes, it is the short gastric vessels. Okay, or I can simply say the left gastroepiploic vessel. Now when I say epiploic vessel beta, you should be you should be like aware of, I'm talking about both the arteries and the veins. I'm talking about both the arteries and the veins. Okay, now if we talk about the linorenal part, you already know we have the splenic artery over here. splenic artery. We have the tail of the pancreas. Tail of pancreas. Yes, yes, very good, guys. And if, yeah, there is something which is common to both. There is something which is common to both that we should know. That is, yeah, the lymphatic part, the lymphatics, uh, the pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes that you will see in both the ligaments, pancreatico-splenic lymph nodes. Okay, you will have, yes, extra peritoneal fatty tissue, extra peritoneal fatty tissue, and autonomic nerve fibers. Autonomic nerve fibers. Okay, so this is like you have to keep in mind about the peritoneal ligaments. Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone, beta. I hope this is clear to everyone. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box. And this is something which you already know, beta. ये बीच में क्या है? It is the stomach. It is the stomach. So this ligament, which is extending from the spleen to the stomach, it is the gastrosplenic ligament, and the one which is the ligament which is extending from the spleen to the left kidney, it is the linorenal ligament. Linorenal ligament. संजना, गरिमा, एंजल, विकी, वेरी गुड. बाकी सब के क्या हो गया है? बाकी सब क्यों नहीं आंसर्स दे रहे हैं? चलिए, हाँ, हम सब देते रहो बेटा. ये ग्रोइंग लिवर है, देख लो. लिवर का साइज बड़ा होने की वजह से देयर इज अ कैविटी बिहाइंड द स्टमक दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द लेसर सैक, राइट. और आगे की तरफ क्या है? ग्रेटर सैक, राइट. चलो, दिस इज लाइक वी ऑलरेडी हैव डिस्कस्ड. Arterial supply, beta. Arterial supply, I need not to tell you, it is the splenic. Okay, tell me the answer. Which artery supplies the stomach? Which artery supplies the spleen? Not stomach. Yes. Which artery supplies the spleen? You already know we have the abdominal aorta, and from the abdominal aorta we have a ventral branch that is called as the celiac trunk. Yes, anyone in the chat box? Anyone who would like to answer? Celiac trunk. And from the celiac trunk, basically we have one branch that is tortuous. That is tortuous. And yes, splenic. Fun mode, Dimple, Garimas, Ellen. Yeah, Vicky, very good, beta. It is the splenic artery. Very good. इसमें इतना क्या घबराने वाली बात थी, पता नहीं. चलो, you already know कि suppose this is the stomach part. So I'm not concerned about the stomach, I'm just concerned about this. Yeah, spleen. Now you already know this is the spleen. Everyone is right, Vicky. Very good. So this, yes, that you have to remember that, yeah, it is passing behind the stomach and it is like reaching to the spleen and dividing into multiple branches. Okay, it is also giving branches, esophageal branches down left gastroepiploic artery and pancreatic branches. So no need to remember the branches of the splenic artery, but you should remember the splenic artery. It is the arterial supply to the spleen. Splenic artery, that is the largest branch of the celiac trunk. Largest branch of celiac trunk. Okay. Now coming on to the venous drainage, beta. Venous drainage, it is done by which vein? You already know. We have the, yeah, we have these. Okay, for example, you already know, if suppose this is the spleen. Okay, if suppose this is the spleen, we have small tributaries which will drain into the main splenic vein. Okay, so this is the splenic vein, okay, which is taking the blood there, and you already know it combines with the superior mesenteric vein to form the portal vein. So main vein in which the splenic vein is draining, it is the portal vein. Okay. Superior mesenteric vein and splenic vein will like confluence together behind the neck of the pancreas, and they will lead to the formation of the portal vein. So yes, that is about the venous drainage that you have to remember. That is the splenic vein. Okay. Coming on to the lymphatic drainage of the spleen, beta, remember that the spleen has, yeah, the spleen has two bulb, the, yeah, red pulp and the white pulp. The red pulp, or I can say the red, the red pulp, basically there are no lymphatics, okay. The red pulp, there are no lymphatics. Yeah. If we come on to the white pulp, okay, if we come to the white pulp, or I can simply say that there are few lymphatics that arise from the capsule and trabeculae. Trabeculae is a meshwork type of a network, okay, and so they arise from the capsule and trabeculae, and remember they drain into pancreaticosplenic lymph nodes. Pancreaticosplenic lymph nodes. Okay, it is along the splenic artery. These pancreaticosplenic lymph nodes are along the splenic artery, right? So yeah, majority of the part there are like no lymphatics, but yes, a small part, that is like few lymphatics arise from the capsule and the trabeculae, and they drain into the pancreaticosplenic lymph nodes. Okay, now coming on to the nerve supply. So remember beta that we have sympathetic vasomotor fibers from celiac plexus. Okay, the celiac, that is the network of the nerves. Yeah, we have sympathetic vasomotor fibers from the celiac plexus. Now, coming on to the clinical correlations. So the arteries, veins, already I have discussed this in detail, guys, like in the previous lecture. So that was just a revision part that we have just discussed. I hope till now everything is clear, beta. Just give me a thumbs up till now everything is clear. Yes. Good evening, Litin. Yeah, I hope it's clear to everyone. Yeah. Now, beta, remember that the, yes, Dimple, Garima, Satyashri, very good, beta. Remember that the spleen, it is the most common ruptured abdominal viscera. Abdominal viscera में बहुत सारे organs हैं. We have stomach, we have small intestine, large intestine, but the most common organ to get ruptured, Sanjana, very good beta, it is the spleen, right? So remember beta, spleen is highly vascular. Spleen is highly vascular, okay, blood supply बहुत ज्यादा है, okay, it is elastic, it is purple in color, okay, friable भी होता है, okay, it is moving with respiration, it is moving with respiration. So remember beta, the small branches of spleen, which I've already told you, if this is the splenic artery, So this splenic artery is giving small branches, and this is called as the hilar branches. These are called as the hilar branches. These are approximately 5 to 7 in number. These are approximately 5 to 7 in number. So remember that we have the small branches of splenic artery. Okay, and remember that these hilar branches are end arteries. They do not anastomose with anyone. They are like ending in the spleen. They are ending in the spleen. So you already know if these end arteries are having any kind of obstruction, or if I say embolism, okay, अगर इनमें एम्बोलिज्म हो गया तो ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं होगा. ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं होगा. If there will be no blood supply, no oxygen will reach, and that is something which is called as infarction, and that is something which is called as the splenic infarction. Splenic infarction, beta. Remember that स्प्लेनिक इन्फेक्शन क्यों होगा? क्योंकि ब्लड नहीं जाएगा. ब्लड विल नॉट नहीं जाएगा तो ऑब्वियसली बात है दैट ऑक्सीजन विल नॉट गो. ऑक्सीजन डिमांड विल मतलब ऑक्सीजन विल डिक्रीज इन द टिश्यू. Okay, oxygen will decrease in the tissue, so there is less blood supply due to less oxygen, and that is something which is called as the infarction. And this splenic infarction, it will cause referred pain. It will cause the referred pain to left shoulder, and that is something which is called as Kehr's sign. That is something that you have to remember. It is the Kehr's sign that has been asked in the exam multiple number of times. Kehr's sign, right? Apart from that, beta, you should remember, if suppose this is the spleen, and spleen is divided into, like I'm dividing the spleen into 4 segments. We have the superior segment and the inferior segment. The superior segment and the inferior segment. Now, beta, remember the plane which is dividing the spleen into 2 parts, superior and inferior. This plane, it is avascular plane. Avascular plane कहने का मतलब है there is no blood supply. No blood supply over here. Okay, means branches are not anastomosing over here. Okay, now if there is like no branches which are anastomosing over here, it is an important line for like important part. Okay, it can be used for surgical surgical incisions, right? It can be used as surgical planes or surgical incisions. So these planes can be used for surgical incisions, right? So that is something that you have to remember. So now coming, I hope the clinical correlations are clear to each and everyone. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box. The clinical correlations are clear to each and everyone. Yeah. Now coming on to the last topic, that is the structures of the splenic parenchyma. So yes, I'm just waiting for your thumbs up so that I can like continue. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Sai Krishna, I think you have like previously answered. Yeah, Shelly. I hope everything is clear, guys. It's better if you like start answering in the chat box. It really looks nice if you just answer. Rutika, Sai Krishna, very good बेटा. बाकियों के हाथ पर मेहंदी लगी हुई है. ऐसे पता है क्या होता है कि तुम लोग से ना, मतलब अगर अपने चाहने वालों को, अपने बॉयफ्रेंड को, अपने गर्लफ्रेंड को टेक्स्ट करना हो तो तुम्हारे जो हैंड की जो फिंगर्स की स्पीड है ना, आई मीन वो तो 64 kps से भी ज्यादा की चलती है. मतलब मैसेज करा लो इंस्टाग्राम पे तो तुम लोग की स्पीड का कोई एंड नहीं है. और तुम लोग से एक क्वेश्चन पूछ लो, थम्स अप देने के लिए बोल दो, पूछ लो समझ में आया कि नहीं. ये तो मतलब पता नहीं फिर मैं क्या ही बोलूं तुम लोग को. इतने लाजवाब बच्चे हो तुम लोग. So the splenic parenchyma, it is divided into red pulp. Okay, it is 75% of splenic parenchyma, and we have the white pulp. white pulp, and remember it is also called as Malpighian bodies. Malpighian bodies. Okay. Now the white pulp beta, it is consisting of lymphatic nodules. Okay, it is consisting of the lymphatic nodules. Okay. Now these lymphatic nodules are arranged around on eccentric arteriole. Eccentric arteriole. And remember that it is something which is called as Malpighian corpus cells. Again, from histology point of view, very important. Structure of spleen. Yeah, Malpighian corpus cells. So these lymphatic nodules, बेटा arterioles तुम लोगों को पहले ही पता है arterioles क्या होते हैं. What are arterioles, guys? What are arterioles? जल्दी से बताओ arteriole क्या होता है. Arteries और arterioles में क्या difference होता है? What is the difference between the arteries and the arterioles? So these are lymphatic nodules which are like arranged around the eccentric arteriole, and that proper structure. कि अगर suppose these are the eccentric arterioles, so these are the lymphatics which will surround the this whole eccentric arteriole, and that structure is something which is called as the Malpighian corpus cells, right? Malpighian corpus cells. So yes, yeah, the red pulp basically it is formed by the collection of cells. Okay, red pulp it is formed by the collection of cells. It is formed by the collection of cells. Yeah. So yes. So yeah, in the reticulum in between the sinusoids. So if you just like want to know the cell population, which cells you will see in the splenic parenchyma, guys? I want the answers in the chat box. Which cells you will see in the splenic parenchyma? Which cells you will see in the splenic parenchyma? बताओ दो आंसर फटाफट. स्प्लीन में कौन कौन से सेल्स देखने को मिलेंगे भाई? बिल्कुल ही चुप हो गए हो सारे के सारे. या it is the all types of lymphocytes. Okay, we have all three types of blood cells. RBC, WBC and platelets. Yes, Tanvi, very good beta. It is the RBC, WBC, platelets. Very good beta. Okay. Yeah, we have macrophages also. Macrophages also, right? Now remember the red pulp basically it consists of venous sinuses, and yeah, we have the splenic cord. Okay, the splenic cord, which is called as the splenic cord of Billroth. More in number. Yes, yes, yes. It is more in number. Yeah. So the splenic parenchyma, like it's composed of the red and the white pulp, and the cell population will have all types of lymphocytes, blood cells, and the macrophages. That is something you have to know. The clinical correlation, the Coher sign is very important that I have already told you. That is due to splenic infarction, and that is due to the embolism of the terminal splenic artery branches. Okay, and the avascular plane. And remember, it is the most common ruptured abdominal viscera. The nerve supply, the lymphatic drainage, the venous drainage, arterial supply, the peritoneal ligaments that I've already discussed, hilum of the spleen, the visceral relations, diaphragmatic relations, the parts of the spleen, the end surface borders, okay, the functions of the spleen, the size and the weight, the Harris dictum, the surface anatomy, the site, and the nature of the spleen. So I have completed all the topic. I hope like you understood the topic. So just give me a thumbs up before leaving. Tomorrow I will continue with the anatomy of the pancreas. Tomorrow I will continue with the anatomy of the pancreas. So yeah, I want everyone to attend the session. The PDF will be uploaded on the Telegram group. No need to worry about that. Yeah. So yes, goodbye guys. Goodbye. Chal. Garima, very good beta, very good. Very good Dimple, Sanjana, very good. Chali, Angel Matthews, very good. So tomorrow we'll meet. Yes. Sai Krishna, Satyashri, Ram, very good. Perfect. Chaliye. Tanvi, okay. Perfect beta.